All right, Bob, you get to lead off today.
Okay.
All right, Bob, you get to lead off today.
I'm even not mute, so that's good. Coach, about recruiting, how are things going with the new staff as opposed to the way, how big of a difference is it now as opposed to before?
It's rolling. Like everybody's working, everybody's grinding. It's an amazing feeling to see how much work goes on every day as far as recruiting goes.
What about the reception, Coach, from coaches, from kids? I mean, parents, kind of how people reacting to you guys? How much, kind of what's that conversation like for you guys?
It's been phenomenal. A lot of times it just takes a little bit of grooming to get things right, and I think the staff has been doing a great job of that. Just getting those relationships going again. I don't think it was that people were negative about Illinois before. It was just more of cultivating those relationships and being able to build on them. And I think Coach B, first off, as a leader, he helps us do that. And then the coaching staff, everybody's working their tail off to keep those things going.
The last thing I've got is, when will you know the recruiting part is like really positive, or do you feel like that now? I mean, are you already there, or is that something down the road?
I think you can kind of tell now that it's going in the right direction. You see guys, a lot more attention coming to the program as far as the recruits go. But we'll tell in December. We'll see what the class turn out.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Hey, Cory, good to see you. Following up on Bob's question, just sticking with the recruiting front, you've been around this program a little longer than the other coaches who are here right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the effect that Pat Embleton and guys like that who have been around this program for a while as well have had on recruiting, and just how important those guys are to this mission, and what you've seen from them, I guess, behind the scenes?
Guys like Pat are invaluable because there's so many things that they can do. Like, he's not just the things that you guys see of just like helping find recruits and things like that. Like, Pat understands how to get guys in school. He understands what needs to be done. He understands who needs to be talked to. The things that he can do is not very many guys that understand or know what happens at the University of Illinois as far as academics and being able to get a guy in the school and knowing all the things that it takes to get a guy in school. So just having a guy like Pat and his staff around here, that's one of those things that you can't put a price on.
I know you can't discuss specific recruits at all, but just to see in-state recruiting stuff going as well as it has, I know that push has been going on ever since Brett got here, and to see some guys committing to the program from further down in state in areas that maybe haven't been, as fertile in the past. How nice is that to see as a coach here?
Oh, that's great. Just to see guys jumping in the boat, no matter where they're from, this early is it's one of those things that you hadn't seen very often since I've been here. So just see guys jumping in and understanding that this place is not the same place it's been in the past. That's a great feeling. Now we just got to keep the momentum going.
Thank you, Cory.
No doubt.
Hey, Cory, hope you're well, man. I think it's been 3 years now that you've been a college assistant coach. How have you grown as an on-field coach? Because I know you're not just a recruiter, right? Like you're assistant. How have you grown in that role?
I'd say the biggest thing is, to be honest with you, I think I've probably learned more in this last couple of months with Coach B than I have in the last 3 years. That's probably funny to say, but just as far as being a coach, Coach B does some phenomenal things with football 101. And it sounds crazy, like it's just for the players, but I think I've probably learned maybe more than them. But also just learning just how to be a great coach and learning how to focus in on the right things, get my guys going in the right direction. This is my first year with the running backs, but I've coached every position on the field as a high school coach. And now I'm just learning how to do more of the small things, getting all the small things done with my guys, getting my guys, instead of looking at big picture now, I'm looking at the small things, making sure my guys in the right place, lined up, attacking the huddle. We ain't doing all the right things now. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, if you could have told yourself 3 years ago, like some advice about the difference of college to high school, what would you tell yourself?
Be patient. It's a lot of things I tell my players. Be patient. Take your time. Focus. You can narrow your scope a little bit, and then just continue to let it grow on its own. Just basically be patient, and then things will work out.
What are some of those things that you've learned from football 101? You know a lot of football, Cory. So I'm wondering, like, what do you even pick up in those?
Everything from I don't gonna go too far in depth, but everything from just how you look at first and second down, like it's a lot of those things that it's not just playing the down, you know, playing whatever downs out there, but what happens in those downs. Looking at football a lot deeper than just saying it's 1st and 10, but what's the tendencies that happen in 1st and 10, things like that, things that happen in second down, you know, like just the small nuances of football that coach will take you through that'll kind of blow your mind a little bit. I think he's done that with me. Like, I mean, I'm serious. I'm in the full team meetings and I'm taking notes like I'm playing. So, I mean, I can go back and look at my notes. It's so many different things that I've picked up since I've been here.
Thanks, Cory.
Hey, Cory, you talked about the balance that you guys are going to have at running back with, you know, multiple options, all those guys in the spring game having pretty strong performances. What was maybe your favorite thing you saw from that group, you know, the Chases and Reggie, and maybe, you know, the thing that didn't make you too happy that you really want to kind of see improved, you know, heading into the fall?
Consistency is one of those things that kind of make me happy. Starting to see the guys, they're starting to get it a little bit, starting to understand that we don't have to have a home run all the time. I think that's what we finally starting to get that makes me happy. Things that's going to always kind of rub me the wrong way a little bit is how we handle the ball. Like, that's going to be huge for us. Sometimes we have a little tendency to get loose with it. And if you run out of bounds, I'm going to go crazy. So those are a couple small things.
Thanks, Cory.
Ask Chase about that one.
And Coach, I wanted to ask about specifically about Reggie Love in the spring game. This is kind of the first chance he's had. You know, he had a few carries last fall, but the first chance to really get out there and get some runs, 9 carries, 63 yards. You've coached him for such a long time. What was that like for you to have that moment with him as his position coach?
I mean, it always feels good to see guys have success, but like to see Reggie works his tail off, and he knows it's going to be probably harder on him than anybody else in the room because I've seen him so long. But I mean, he comes every day, works his tail off. It's good to see him have a little roll a little bit, but I mean, we just scratching the surface right now, and he got a lot more work to do to get where he want to be.
I also have a question about St. Louis recruiting. I mean, you know as well as anyone how cyclical it is down there. It seems to move from school to school. There's 6 Division I guys at CBC, and then the next year there's 7 guys at Trinity, and the next year there's 5 guys at DeSmet. It seems to move from school to school. How do you approach that? You know, knowing a lot of those coaches and knowing the scene around there, how do you approach that kind of unique thing to St. Louis recruiting?
I think it's one of those things that it's gonna sound like it's saying the same thing, but it's really about the relationships. Like, you can't just have relationships in one place. If you got relationships in one place in St. Louis, you're dead in recruiting. You gotta, you know what I'm saying, you gotta be able to, you gotta know people and know where the guys are. For us, I mean, like you said, with me being here and guys like Terry Hawthorne, I mean, we can cover that state pretty much with guys that we have relationships with. We're gonna be able to do a lot of different things now that we got some different measures going on around.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Cory, hope you're doing well. I know a year ago, like, we were trying to figure out how this world was going to be shaped by dealing everything via Zoom, but how different was it? I mean, different in the sense that, like, you're back in person to have those guys in person for spring. How much more value do you get out of that? Might be a stupid question, but versus just trying to find your way through it on Zoom.
Really, that's a phenomenal question. I think really having them close to you where you can touch them, and like you in that close physical area where everybody's paying attention, everybody's watching. Like for me, I'm a guy that, like, I want to be able to work with you. I want to be able to, in my meetings, it's hard for me to just sit and talk at people. I don't like talking at a screen. I want to see how the vibe is in the room. So for that, like, my room, the vibe's so great, you can feel it when you walk in the room, the energy. That's so much different than being on Zoom. Because some guys, you don't know how guys learn when you're on Zoom. When you're in person, you kind of figure out how they learn. They learn best from being on the board, or they learn best from being out on the field. Or we got to go walk through those type of things right there. Those are invaluable things that you can't get through Zoom.
I think Aaron Henry talked about, like, in his room, Devin Witherspoon is kind of like the vibe setter a little bit. Do you have a vibe setter in the running back room?
I think probably Reggie and Chase Brown, probably. Both of those guys, they walk in the room is upbeat every day. Like and if somebody else is down, they gonna bring them with them. Like both of those guys kind of come in. Chase Hayden's my quiet guy, but you know, he's like so smart and attentive. He's gonna be paying attention to everything. He hang on to every word. So those guys, it's kind of like a little group. They all sit real close to each other. So it's a nice little vibe going.
And if I could get one more, what's the message or the goal for them now that spring is over and this kind of window between now and when summer workouts ramp back up? What do you tell them as they kind of go back to maybe their hometowns in some cases?
We're still competing right now. Like we compete at everything we do. We compete in the academics. We compete right now. You're going home, but you're still competing. I mean, you got to go home. You got to go make sure you're taking care of your body, make sure you're working out, make sure you're doing the things so you come back and you're not behind. We're going to compete out of love and not envy.
Thanks, Cory. Appreciate it.
Hey, Cory, I kind of wanted to ask on something Jeremy hit on. You said you've learned a lot more in the last 3 months. How much of that is based off just like the analytical use? You hit on like the first down, second down, and like team tendencies. How much of your advanced knowledge has become just because of the use of analytics within the program?
Those type of things, analytics, so those type of things, they always play a part. But when you're around Coach B, you kind of get things from him that you just don't see on film. Things that you just don't look at every day. And especially for myself, I can say that, especially I've been doing this for 3 years here, and a lot of things I had never even paid attention to, honestly. So it's just a lot of small things that little nuances that coaches do that he pick up on right away. And I might say right away, it might seem right away to me, but he's maybe studying it for a week before he bring it to me. But like it just seems like it's something he just grabbed, and now I'm just not. Why didn't I think of that?
You said there's some little things that you maybe haven't hit on in the past and that you're now more aware of. What are some of those things, and how much have they helped you as a coach?
Just paying attention to the small things, paying attention to like I say, down. I'm just gonna continue to use the down and distance thing. I don't want to go too far on a lot of stuff, but with the down and distance thing, just knowing what you're gonna get, like knowing what you should be getting from the other side, from the defense, knowing what their tendencies are, knowing like if it's 3rd and 4, like what we have to do, what needs to be done, what kind of down it is, like those type of things. I know and not only for us, but like everybody on the field has to know it. Like Coach B, he's big on that. He's big on not just the coaches knowing it, but the players. Everybody should be thinking the same thing all the time, and that's been huge for me.
Hey, Cory, I just had one quick follow-up. Obviously, the opportunity Lovey gave you was life-changing for you and your family. What is the opportunity that Brett's given you to stay on? Like, what has that meant to you?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's really more like, that's almost an emotional question, because he kind of still taking a chance on me. He kind of took a chance on me without knowing me. And you got to think, like, Coach B probably could have got anybody to take this job. He could have called 100 other dudes. I mean, so it's one of those things for me. Like I'm here, Jeremy, you know me. I'm here. I'm gonna go do what I gotta do. I'm gonna go grind my butt off. I'm gonna make him proud that he did the right thing. Make him know that he did the right thing on the field and off the field. Like you said, I do want to be known as more than just a recruiter, as a good coach. But Coach B told me something when I first got this job, and I ain't gonna spit it out, but like I understand what I need to do.
You're not gonna share it?
No, I'm not gonna share that right now.
All right, thanks, Cory.
Can they hear?
Yeah, you guys are good.
Hey, Andy, hope you're well, man. I kind of have an off-the-wall question for you to start this off. But your family has lived on the East Coast a lot, bounced around the West Coast a lot. I know part of you wanted to just stay in one place for a while. So what's it been like for them, going from the Jersey Turnpike or the Beltway in Maryland or the West Coast to Champaign, Illinois? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adventure. They're certainly not intentional, but yeah, we've enjoyed every stop. That's for sure. Our kids have become pretty well cultured because of the moves. And they're two. I have 2 boys. They're Luke's 10, going to be 11, and Logan's 8, just turned 8, and they're both football kids. They love football, so they love what I do, and they understand it, and they've come to embrace what we're trying to get done here. But they're all excited to get here to Champaign. They're actually currently in Tucson right now. They'll be here in the middle of June. We're excited about that.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is a dumb question, but you were in the Big Ten East for several years, so you know this conference. Is there a difference between divisions, East, West, like identity or perception wise? Have you seen any?
No, it's obviously in the probably 10 of the last 12 years, the East has been pretty strong. Actually pretty strong all the way through. But yeah, just it's been pretty heavy on the East because of the teams there. Ohio State's had a really nice run. Michigan had a nice run, and Penn State and Michigan State. All those teams have done a really good job in recruiting and coaching. But I think on this side we have a lot of great teams too. Wisconsin's been solid over the years. They've been solid ever since we left there in 2012. They've been going really strong. Iowa is always going to be a team that you're going to talk about. So I don't know if there's any big, there's a difference on both sides, but in terms of style of football, I think it's pretty level, across the board. One of the great things about this conference is you see all different styles, from 4 down to 3 down on defense to all the multiple coverages, and then all the different styles of offenses. So you got to be really prepared, to play and coach in this conference.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Coach, how's the recruiting part of this job going for you so far?
Really good. I think Coach B's brought in a pretty good plan. Our plan when we first got here was to recruit the building. Did a great job of that. We got to know our players and the people within the organization and their parents, and then the next step was to reach out to the high school coaches in the state of Illinois, and that was intentional. We called every coach in the state and to just build relationships, because that's what recruiting is all about. It's about long-lasting relationships, true relationships that go beyond just this year's recruiting class. So we're continuing with those cultivating those relationships now today. And then the third step was to reach out to the areas within a 500-mile radius of the school. And I think, our staff has done a great job of that, and continuing on building on those relationships outside the state. And then the last step would be to find guys nationally. So, I think recruiting is going really well from that standpoint. We're finding and locating guys that fit our program. And that's probably the most important thing is it's finding guys that fit us, our personality, what we want to do on both sides of the ball, and adding to the roster where we're deficient.
Coach, when a program has struggled for a while, how do you overcome that in recruiting? What do you have to do?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not like comment on the past, but I think we're just going to keep building on what we believe in. We want smart. We want smart and good character guys, that play football really well. I think we're looking for good football players first, right? And then finding the measurables that we want that fit what we're trying to do. And I think if we continue on that path and not change who we are or what we stand for, or what we want to be, I think we'll get to those. We'll get to that.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Coach, I'm curious, you're kind of in the unique position here where, you had 4 guys you you couldn't work through spring ball. So other position groups are maybe a little further ahead than you because they've had their guys out there and you have a bunch of guys rehabbing injuries and Jake Hansen coming in late, things like that. What is your ability between now and camp? I know there are some summer workout rules and things like that. And there are some meetings. What's your ability to get some of those guys involved before camp starts?
Yeah, well, first of all, they've been heavily involved, throughout this process. I mean, I don't think there's a detail that they don't know right now mentally. And I think these guys, I think that's going to translate into really fast production once we get them in the fall. But they didn't miss a beat. That we had periods during practice that we got them involved, to where they could get the defense lined up. They could call the signals and take one step. It was a period that we were able to get a lot of our injured guys that were capable of doing those types of things, some reps this spring. So they're not completely raw, coming into this. They understand our system. They were able to make calls during practice and get in there. They just weren't able to do the physical parts. But to answer your question, we'll be really hands-on where we need to be or where we're capable of being with these guys. And I have no, I don't think that there's going to be any problems getting them up to speed once we get them in fall camp.
And then injury-wise, is it anticipated that all of them would be cleared by August 1, that all would enter fall camp, cleared of what they're currently rehabbing?
Yeah, to my knowledge, that is our expectation. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Andy, I wanted to follow up on that a little bit. For you, I mean, what was the key in, you had like two really sizable groups that were different, right? Like the group who could do things and the group who were a little more limited in what they were able to do. What was the key for you in merging all of that into one group, just kind of understanding some of the physical limitations for some of those guys?
Yeah, well, I had my 1 and 2 group that were active, and then I had my 1 and 2 group that were injured. So it made it pretty easy, so when we were practicing in those periods where we could mix some of those guys in, that's how we did it, so just so they all got equal amount of reps and looks at what we were trying to do. But it wasn't really hard to manage it because, I feel like even the guys that were actively playing in practice were really good players. I mean, I'm one of the fortunate ones, where I have a lot of depth and a lot of capable guys of being signal callers and players in this league. I truly believe that. So it wasn't very hard. It's a really competitive environment. By going through evaluations today and continuing on throughout the week, the message is, the bar's been set pretty high here at the position, and and you only have one way that you could go if you want to play, and that's up. So I have a really good room. I'm really enjoying being around all these guys. They love football. They're a tight-knit group that helps each other out, but they know coming into the fall that they're going to have to grind to get those top spots.
It seems like when healthy, this is a pretty deep room. I know CJ had talked about that. He said, maybe this would be a rotation of some nature to get us in there. But what do you like about this group and what you know of them when, August 1st comes and the expectation is you're all able to have all your guys out there? Yeah,
I think we have a group of guys, a core group of guys that have a lot of playing experience. And with that, they bring a certain type of leadership and expectations to the room. And then we have a group of guys that, that are veteran. They're veteran guys that just hadn't had a lot of playing time, but they've been here for a long time. They've been coached by different guys. They've seen a lot of football from different angles. And gosh, I'm glad I didn't sleep on any of those guys, because coming in, when you hear of, you have, 3 or 4 walk-ons, and then all of a sudden you start watching them, these guys are pretty good. They're pretty serious about what they're trying to get accomplished. And I really enjoyed being around that. And I think we have a lot to look forward to in watching this group of linebackers in the fall.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
Hey, Coach, I kind of wanted to follow up on something Jeremy asked earlier. You kind of hit on the different styles of play within the Big Ten, but you have a lot of experience going around the country, whether it's out east or out west. Why do you think that different conferences tend to have such different styles of play? I know Brett has kind of said that you have to recruit to the players that are in your state, but there's obviously states that don't have as many players to recruit. So why do you think there's such a different style in these different conferences?
I'm not sure. It might be because of what kind of players are available, for them to get in their regions. I don't know. I know coming from the Pac-12 last year, it was, we saw a lot more wide open sets. I hadn't coached in the Pac-12 for a while, so that was a surprise to see more 10 personnel sets, in that league. There's a lot of speed at the skill positions, I noticed. But in the Big Ten, it's a mix of that. Like certain teams, have really explosive skill players. Some teams have huge offensive linemen, and like 2 years ago, I thought Iowa's offensive line was one of the best that we've seen. So I don't know what that is, what that is attributed to, but probably it's probably about style of play and players that they could get within their regions in recruiting.
And then from a coaching perspective, when you're looking at this, how much more difficult maybe is it to prepare for teams in the Big Ten because they do run these different styles than it might have been for you out in the Pac-12, where it's more of a spread out, air raid, more speed kind of situation, like you said?
I don't think there's much difference, gosh, anymore. You better be able to play all different types of styles of defense, to defend all the things that we have to see, and perform against. But we'll have a base defense, and we'll play it really well, and then we'll have supplements to that to defend different things that we see. And Coach Walters has put together a great plan. We all love the style that we're, in the scheme that we're playing. The players are really taken to it, and but we'll have our curveballs that we're working on, to defend all the things that we'll see.
Thanks, Coach. Have a good one.
Thanks, Al.
Hey, Andy, good to see you again. Kind of following up on a couple of different questions, or a combination of questions, I guess. So it was mentioned at the top here about how many different stops you've made all over the nation. And then we also talked about the recruiting front, how that's going. Kind of want to combine those a little bit. With all these different stops you've made, how does what guys like Pat Embleton and other guys behind the scenes, what they're doing, what impressions have you had about that, and how that maybe kind of compares to similar work that you saw at some of your previous stops?
Yeah, we talking specifically about Pat. Pat's unbelievable. He's very detailed. He knows the one thing about recruiting at different schools is being able to figure out what works for this school, and I think Pat shares the same vision that Coach Bielema has for this team, and I think that was the reason why those two, are really cohesive in putting together a plan that works for us. Like I said earlier, in this interview, you know, there was a process that we went through, and that's you know, that's going to be the reason why we're so successful, is because we went through the right process in terms of recruiting, you know, to build our program the right way. But, you know, we're not trying to go pluck a kid from here or there. We're trying to establish relationships so we can get to know the players that we're actually recruiting, and find the guys that fit our program the best. But, you know, I think every place that I've been and recruited to, it was all about figuring out what works for that school, you know, combined with what we're trying to do offensively and defensively, you know, and the guys that figure that out the quickest win. You know, it's because, you know, you just can't go out and get the every 5-star, 4-star guy you get out there, because it's like, it doesn't work that way. You know, all those pieces don't generally fit into what you're trying to do. So we're trying to get the best player available out there that fit what our systems need.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, I had one quick follow-up. Kind of like talked about patience, but in terms of a new coaching staff coming in and implementing what you guys want to do, it sounds like you guys have talked about the patience to that, whether it be backing up a practice to get the fundamentals, or you know, kind of feeding these guys the information at a consumable rate here. What's the key to keeping patient like that? I mean, maybe some people would want the, you know, natural instinct would just be go, go, go and try to make up for a lot of ground quickly. But how have you guys been able to go at a pace that's comfortable for everybody?
I always say, you know, we want to take the time it takes, so it takes less time. You know, I think that's the methodology. You know, like we know how to win. We know what it's going to take to win here at the University of Illinois. Brett has a clear vision of that. And that's why, you know, that's what you get out of a veteran head football coach. He knows the process that it's going to take to get there. And so we don't need to take any shortcuts. He's very confident, and we're very confident as a staff of what we're doing and how we're trying to get it done. And it's, you know, it's however long that takes, you know, but I will guarantee Coach Bielema put together an unbelievable staff. He's got a plan, and we're executing it as we go. You know, and hopefully that equates to a fast turnaround. You know, that's what we all want. You know, but there is a process involved. You know, and we're going through that process.
Thank you, Andy.
Yep.